Once again to another edition of Shelf Life Book Reviews Online. This time out, I'm bringing to your attention two great, highly recommended nonfiction books that I hope when you go to your local bookstore you will seek out. The first book is Our Team, the epic story of four men and the World Series that changed baseball by Luke Epplin. This is published by Flatiron Books and it retails for $39.99. For those who love sports books, especially baseball books, they will find this book most informative. It's like a trip down baseball memory lane as it heads back to the 1940s. The book really revolves around four people. Bill Veeck, who was the owner of the Cleveland Indians baseball team at the time. It also revolves around Bob Feller, an elite pitcher at that time, and two black players of the 1940s, Satchel Paige and Larry Doby. And the book talks about how racism was a rampant part of baseball. In fact, until Jackie Robinson broke the color barrier for the Brooklyn Dodgers in 1947, black players were pretty well shunned from the major leagues. They had to go to what was called barnstorming, where they went from city to city and played against people in that city. Actually, this was not sanctioned by the baseball league. These players went out on their own, and if any players from the actual major leagues wanted to go, during the off season as part of the barnstorming, they were welcome to do so. So the book, Bill Veeck, who was the owner of the Cleveland Indians, was like the P.T. Barnum of the baseball world. He had outrageous giveaways just to get fans in. He wanted to get as many fans as he could into his Cleveland stadium. And he had giveaways of goats, chickens, roosters. He did it all. He was definitely a showman, and it definitely showed at the gates. Now, when he signed Bob Feller, he got one of the best pitchers in baseball, and for many, many years he overachieved, and then he hit a dry spell. And so Bill Veeck wanted to make sure that the Cleveland Indians in the 1948 season were going to go all the way. So he did something almost unheard of. He signed 42-year-old black baseball player Satchel Paige. Now, by 42 years old, most players have retired, but Satchel Paige really was in his prime, and people doubted that he really had what it took to be in the major leagues. He proved them wrong. Satchel Paige had like a rubber arm. He could throw, he could keep throwing and throwing and throwing. And while many fans were in the stadium shouted racist taunts at him, there were also just as many people who were very happy to see an African American player take the mound. And so Veeck also signed another black player, Larry Doby, who many said he's not good enough for this league. Well, he proved them wrong as well too. And he was an outfielder, and he helped propel the Cleveland Indians to the World Series in 1948, and consequently they did win the World Series. Now, the book is really authoritatively written. It's very comprehensive. So if you like a baseball book that looks at 1940s baseball, 1940s racism, this is definitely a book that will be most eye-opening for you, and it is very recommended. Our Team. Get this book on your team and read it right away. The second book of note, which is also highly recommended, is So-Called Normal, a memoir of family, depression, and resilience by Mark Hennick. This is published by HarperCollins, and it retails for $24.99. Years ago, books like these that talked of, suicide would never have been published, but thankfully today the subject is more out there, it's more in the open, and people are not afraid to talk about it, and people are not afraid to admit that they have suffered bouts of depression and suicidal thoughts. This book is very frank, it's very open, and Mark Hennick has done an excellent job of relating his life story at a very young age, he saw his parents separated. It was a bitter separation, and a new man came into his life that ultimately became his stepfather. His name was Gary. Now Gary was a bully, and he was not someone who was warm, caring. And as Mark became more depressed, suicidal thoughts came to his head even at a very young age. And he had drawings that he did at school, and they were pictures that were of death. And the teachers were concerned, of course, and his mother was notified, but they just thought that was a part of growing up. So the longer it went on, the more thoughts Mark had of ending it all. And he finally ended up actually in a psychiatric ward where he was there for observation. They gave him medication, and he still had these horrible thoughts. Now, I should go back to his teenage years, because at one time he went to a bridge. He was ready to jump off. He wanted to end it all. And a man came there and almost taunted him and said, "Jump, you coward." Well, he didn't jump. And another man came by who really cared, who took the time to talk to him. And just as Mark was ready to step off that bridge, the man came forward and he grabbed him around the waist and he stopped him from falling to his death. Now, at the end of the book, we find out that Mark never knew who this man was. He was just someone who came. He told the police the story, and then he disappeared. And Mark hunted him down, and he did reunite with the man, to officially thank him. But through the book, we see that Mark went through so many ups and downs. He finally did have a girlfriend. Her name was Rebecca, and she was part of his saving grace as well, too. Gary stayed with his mother. His mother came and went many times. She left Gary, she came back, and so it was a very disruptive life for him. But as you can tell, he wrote the book, so obviously his story does have a happy ending. So if you're looking for a book that is really from the heart, So-Called Normal is a book that will move you and impress you. And if you know someone who has suicidal tendencies, tell them to read this book, and also make sure they do call the suicide hotline and tell what they're going through. So those are the two books this week. Very important books that you need to read. So thank you once again for watching Shelf Life Book Reviews Online. I appreciate your time, and I welcome your comments, positive and negative. So until we meet again, stay safe, stay sane, stay social distancing, and please stay in touch. Thanks again. Bye for now.